everybody, welcome back to yet another episode of our series Power People, which profiles the who's of the audio and music business industry. And today, on this very special episode, we have with us Mr. Sameer Seth, India Marketing Director, Dolby Laboratories. Welcome you here today, sir.
Thank you so much, Ojasvi, for having me here today.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. Sameer, sir, over the last 5 years, Dolby has made, significant strides across home cinema and, entertainment in India. How and mobile entertainment in India. So how have these advances shaped, consumer perceptions of visual and sound technology in your perspective?
Sure, happy to answer that. So before I answer that, let me, take a step back and share with your audience on what Dolby really does. I think that's a question
Yeah.
that, your audiences would want to know. They would have experienced Dolby, but it'll be good to kind of, just give them an overview on what we do. So Dolby as a brand, takes a lot of pride when we say that we transform the science of sight and sound into spectacular experiences for consumers worldwide. Now, what does that mean? And we do this through a lot of work that we do with the entire ecosystem. So our journey really starts with when we partner with artists, storytellers, filmmakers, musicians, and technicians because they use our innovative technologies like Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos for better storytelling. And when we work with them, we constantly hear that when they create their content using our visual and audio technologies, they find it far better to deliver the creator's intent, in the best possible format. Then, when we talk about the ecosystem further, there's a lot of work that we do with streaming services. Now, once the content is created in Dolby, how does that get delivered uncompromised in the best possible manner? So, there's a lot of work that we do with streaming services, pay TV platforms, who deliver the content in a very efficient manner and in the best possible format. The last, cog in the ecosystem wheel really is the work that we do with device OEMs, because once the content is created and delivered in Dolby, it has to play back on a device in the best possible format. So there's a lot of work that we do with OEMs. Now, when I talk about OEMs, I'm talking about device manufacturers, for example, in your living room, right from your TVs to your soundbars to your AVRs, and also devices on the go. I mean, your tablet, your mobile phones. And the latest experience for consumers to get a Dolby experience is when they are being driven in a car. And when we talk about content here, you're talking not just about movies, TV shows, but you're talking about music, sports, and gaming. I mean,
Yeah.
any content that consumers in India want to consume in different languages today is something that they can experience in Dolby Vision and Atmos, whether they are at home, whether they are at work, working on their PCs, whether they are on the go through their mobile phones or even cars. And of course, how can I forget cinema? So any lifestyle that the consumer is in, there is a Dolby experience the consumer can experience. Now, this was sorry for that long prelude, but it's important for your viewers to understand what Dolby
Yeah.
does. Now coming back to your question, my view over the last few years, I mean, since you say last 5 years, since pandemic, I've seen that there's been a behavioral change in Indian consumers. When I
Yeah.
say behavioral change, consumers are consuming a lot more content than ever before. They're trying different genres of content. I mean, content that I've never consumed, in the past is something that I have tried over the last few years. And when I'm doing all of this, I'm prioritizing premium experiences. Now, when I'm trying different genres of content, I want it in the best possible format.
Yeah.
This brings me closer to the content that I love. Now, whether it is in cinemas, at home, at work, or on the go, I want the best possible experience. And how is this happening? Let me give you an example. Since we're talking about at home, when you talk about these consumers seeking premium experiences, they have, through consumer studies that we've seen, done a two-pronged upgrade. At home, for example, they have upgraded. I mean, for many years, I had an old TV. I was not watching it too often. I used to be mostly at work. I would come in the evening, hardly get any time. But since I have been at home and I've been working in hybrid environment, and the fact that there's been a behavioral change in the way I consume content, I now want a better TV. I want a better device. I want the best possible device to give me the best experience that the device is capable of. So I've invested in upgrading my device. And the second upgrade that I've done is I've invested in a streaming service, which earlier I was subscribing to, say, a single device, standard definition sort of plan, to now a multi-device, a plan that gives me, HDR content, gives me Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. So two-pronged upgrade, device and services, so that I can connect better with the content I love. And this is where Dolby comes in. I mean, as I said, we do a lot of work with content creators, services, devices. They use our visual technologies like Dolby Vision HDR, where you see ultra vivid colors, and the colors kind of really, are bringing your story alive, and the immersive sound of Dolby Atmos. So the two combined together with this premium experiences that consumers are seeking over the last few years, I think it's been a great journey. I mean, as I said, we deliver these experiences, both visual and audio, in cinemas, in your living room, while on the go, and of course now even in your cars.
So definitely we have came a long way. So Samir, Dolby has, expanded into the automotive space also, with a notable milestone. So what achievements, stand out, and how have they influenced consumer perceptions in car audio quality in India?
Sure, happy to chime in there. So India is the world's third largest automotive market. So if I talk about numbers, last year in 2024, there were more than 4.5 million passenger vehicles that were sold. The last 3 quarters for Dolby on the automotive side in India has been quite exhilarating. What really started with a journey with Mahindra's Born electric vehicles. They announced the BE6 and the XEV 9e back in December 2024 as the first Indian cars that'll come with a Dolby Atmos experience, to now 5 models, not just from Mahindra but even Tata Motors. So as I speak, last 3 quarters, there are 5 models of Indian cars that are on Indian roads that consumers are seeking a Dolby experience, or getting a Dolby experience in. That to me, I think, is a very, very proud India moment. And so that's what something that's been keeping us busy. Now, talking about experience and what do consumers kind of seek in the cars, I want to bring up a very recent consumer study that we did with Counterpoint Research in China, which is the world's biggest automotive market. And I see a lot of similarities between consumers in China and consumers in India. Interestingly, that this consumer study with 1,200 respondents, multiple city, threw up the fact that the question that we asked them, what do consumers seek when they buy a new car? And this was a simple question we put out in China. And interesting, I'm not surprised, but interestingly, what came up was the fact that in-car entertainment scores even higher than the price of the car, the design of the car, and even the battery range in case of an EV. So this doesn't really, I mean, this was quite intuitive because consumers are prioritizing premium experiences in different lifestyles, also in the cars. And one of the things, the first things that we do when we get inside the car is actually we turn on our in-car entertainment systems. And this is where again Dolby comes in, with Dolby Atmos music. Now, Dolby Atmos music in car, for example, is a completely new way to create and experience music like never before. I mean, this is a format that delivers the artistic expression to its fullest. It really brings the fan closer to the artist, because what Dolby Atmos does is it does away, it goes beyond the restrictions of stereo and surround sound. It actually, lets the artist place every element of the song, instrument, vocals in a 360-degree soundscape, which literally transports you as a consumer in the car into that music. It's like a concert hall on wheels. As I said, this is an experience that typically brings the occupants in the car closer to the artist, because it gives you this song experience with absolutely unparalleled clarity and depth. And that is what the consumers are increasingly seeking. I mean, that I spoke about the consumer study. I spoke about the number of cars from Indian automakers which is on the Indian roads. And one of the first things that we do when we get in a car is to experience music. If all of this is possibly being delivered to you in the best possible experience, why not? So to your question, really, what achievements kind of stand out for us, as far as in-car audio quality is concerned? This is what has been keeping us busy over the last 3 quarters, I say.
Definitely. So, I mean, with Indian consumers, increasingly valuing, premium indirect experience, as you said. So, how have the, expectations around audio quality inside the vehicles, has evolved over the time?
Sure, I think that's a great question. I think expectations really have shifted from audio just being a feature, to being the centerpiece of the driving experience. I spoke about the consumer study, right? I mean,
Yeah.
typically the popular belief would be, my top 3 features would be: I want a price efficient vehicle. I want top features. I want a good range in a car. I want a good design. I mean, these are all intuitive, right? But contrary to the intuition, in fact, in-car entertainment is ranks even higher than these features. So this is what the consumers are typically facing, looking for. And with Dolby Atmos in cars, consumers, to my mind, are rediscovering their favorite music. They want to connect more deeply with the song, with the artist that they like. Not just music, but even podcasts today. In a car is something that the consumers can experience. So I would say the emphasis really is on creating emotional connect with the music and the artist. Turning every ride in a car into, say, a personalized concert, like experience on wheels. It's like, can I, when I'm being driven in a car, can I, sense as if I am sitting in a concert hall on wheels? And that is what Dolby Atmos typically does to in-car entertainment today.
That's great. So can you share an example, of strategic partnership in India that, accelerated Dolby's adoption across, entertainment and vehicles?
So when you say entertainment, are you talking broadly as entertainment, or are you talking about automotive? So then I can give you an answer accordingly, because that's like a juicy full toss,
Broadly
right?
only.
Sorry.
Broadly only, the entertainment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let me then take you back in time. I mean, let me start by saying how we sort of worked with this whole ecosystem. Ever since we started our Indian subsidiary back in 2010. Back in 2010, 2011, at that point in time, the Indian entertainment ecosystem was going through, a massive upgrade. There were signals. The TV signals were moving from analog to digital, standard definition to high definition. So one of our watershed moments where we really leveraged our partnership was the work that we did with Star India. I mean, Star India started their HD portfolio with HD channels, and they did a very interesting campaign called Asli HD. And one of the tenets of that campaign really was, it is Asli HD if it is shot in HD and has Dolby surround sound. So I think that, to my mind, really was one moment that we partnered with the biggest broadcaster in the country. And back then, almost 80 to 90% of the entire HD portfolio across different broadcasters was in Dolby surround sound. So what started back then in 2011, then there's a lot of work that we did on the cinema side. I mean, we take a lot of pride when we say today, we work with all cinema exhibitors. There's a lot of work that we did with PVR back then, which is now PVR INOX cinemas, and of course, independent exhibitors. So there are more than 1,100 Dolby Atmos enabled screens in the country. What started back in, I fondly remember, 12th, which is 12th December 2012. We opened up our first screen at Satyam in Chennai. The first Indian title in Dolby Atmos was Shivaji's re-release, Shivaji 3D. To where we are today, more than a decade from there, almost 45% of the global theatrical Dolby Atmos content comes out of India. In not just Hindi, but in 7 Indian languages. So it's been a great journey. I would say cinema, I would say living room. I would also want to mention the work that we did with OEMs. Back in 2014, Dolby introduced our first visual technology, which is Dolby Vision HDR, which we know today. So there's a lot of work that we did with global TV OEMs. LG, I fondly remember, brought their first OLED TVs back then, with Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. So I would say these were three big moments back then. Now moving, doing a quick fast forward to where we are today. I think there's a lot of work that we've done over the last 12 to 14 years with Indian OEMs. Now you can actually, talking about the Pride Indian moment, there are Indian device OEMs that bring a Dolby Vision and an Atmos experience. I mean, we work with Boat, for example. We work with Zebronics, Govo. Even TV OEMs like BPL, Thomson, Kodak. I mean, these are all Indian OEMs, or OEMs being managed by Indian ODMs. So there's a lot of work that we do with them. Talking about automotive, I've already spoken. Mahindra and Tata Motors have brought cars to the Indian roads. Talking about services, we do a lot of work with not just international streaming services, both on the AV and the music side, but we also do a lot of work with Indian streaming services. So right from Jio Hotstar to Z5 to Sony Live to India to even regional streaming services like Sun Next or AHA or even ETV Win. Hoi Choi, which is a Bengali streaming service. I mean, all of these services deliver, not just movies, but even TV episodic content in Dolby Vision and Atmos. So this 12, 14 years have been quite exhilarating for us. There's a lot of work that we've done, as I said, with content creators, so filmmakers, musicians, they use our technology for better storytelling. So there's a work that we do there, the work that we do with streaming services I spoke about, and there's a lot of work that now we do not just with international OEMs but even Indian OEMs. So as a proud Indian, you would be spoiled for choice. You can watch your favorite content in Dolby, whether it's live sports, music, TV shows, movies, in any lifestyles that you're in, whether you're at cinema, living room, at work or on the go.
Dolby is everywhere.
Yes, with all humility. That's the love that we've got, from the Indian audiences. Yes, super proud to say that there is a Dolby experience that we power up in most lifestyles.
Yeah, so in an experience-driven category, how do you measure the ROI of digital campaigns for a tech brand like Dolby?
I think that's a great question. From an ROI POV, I think we look at a lot of parameters. We look at engagement, we look at trial, we look at advocacy. For example, how many consumers actually tried a Dolby experience for the first time? How many of them kind of recommended a Dolby experience to a friend of theirs? How many of them are considering purchase of a Dolby enabled device? That's as far as the consumer part is concerned. Two-thirds of what we do is upstream with the content creators and influencers, for example. So we also work with them to understand organically how much are they talking about Dolby. Are they using Dolby tools for storytelling? I mean, I mentioned creators and influencers. There is a Dolby a Dolby Vision as an experience is something that's available on phones today. So are the creators and influencers not just in from a PUGC point of view, but even from a UGC point of view, are they using Dolby Vision for videos? Are they capturing their content in Dolby Vision? Are they sharing it in that? And what is it that they feel when they create their stories in Dolby Vision? Is it something that helps them do better storytelling? So that's from a ROI perspective. We also on the digital front, there's a lot of work that we do in terms of aiding discovery of Dolby enabled content. So we work with streaming services where you would actually see a Dolby Vision or a Dolby Atmos badge when you land up on a streaming service. So how do you aid discovery of content? There's a lot of work on that. So that also is ROI for us, because is there the consumer journey? Are we making it easy, right? I mean, I fondly, as a marketer, talk about, a phrase called customer, right? We talk about
Yeah.
customer. So customer is basically how do you reduce the cost that you give to the customers, if at all. So that's what we try to do from a digital journey. Now, let me give you, I mean, sorry, it's again a juicy full toss. I mean, quite a few couple of answers I can give from an ROI perspective. We also, create a Dolby brand e-store, on e-commerce platforms like Amazon and Flipkart. Here we track, for example, ROAS. Now, ROAS, as you know, is return on ad spends. That typically measures the revenue that gets generated for every penny that you spend of advertising. So there are multiple tools. It depends on who you're talking about. Are you talking about consumers? Are you talking about creators? Which consumer journey are you kind of talking about? So we do have active tracking, for all of this. Sorry for that long answer.
No issues. It's quite insightful for all the audiences and for me also. So Sameer, how do you adapt Dolby's, as, as a global brand to resonate with India's diverse, linguistic and cultural landscape?
Sure. I mean, the brand ethos actually stays the same, right? Globally, it's how, to your question also says, how do you sort of adapt it from a local cultural relevance? I'll give you an example. I mean, I'm fresh out of a campaign, which I'm super proud of and which I love to share with your audience. Here we recently, did a partnership of sorts with the Mahindra's EV range where we, did a 5-city campaign. We, in fact, went to top 5 regional markets and we had regional music artists launching a song at a dealership. I mean, never heard of, right? So here we showcased Ghana, the streaming app, which is inbuilt into the Mahindra born electric vehicles. And we got the artist to talk about the track that he or she released at the dealership and got consumers to experience it, through the Ghana app in the car. So this whole piece really was curated as a conversation between the artist. We had radio jockeys from India's #1 radio station. We had customers walking into the dealership, all of them in a conversation. And this was like a 5-city, 8-week long campaign. I mean, these were very, very popular regional artists like Adi Nagar, Harshvardhan Vavre, there was Sihai Gubbi, and so on and so forth. So there were five regional markets, five regional artists launching a track at a dealership. Just imagine, I mean, artists typically would launch a track, on a streaming service through a digital campaign, or they might just do a on-ground listening sessions. But this is kind of unique, right? I mean, imagine the opportunity that this throws up to an artist, right? Suddenly artists realize there is another touch point that a brand is creating, where they can launch a song at a dealership, and you have walk-in customers kind of experiencing this from the artist in conversation with somebody from Dolby, and of course an RJ. So this entire activation, I think, is definitely a proof point at how we leveraged this as a touch point, as a moment from a local cultural relevance point of view, staying true to our global ethos of bringing technology, bringing the customer or the consumer closer to the fan, closer to the artist. Sorry, so the fan getting closer to the artist is what our global ethos from Dolby Atmos music is, and that's something that we did from a localized cultural point of view. So just giving you one example, staying true to what we do from a global and an Indian relevance point of view.
That's great. That's great. So, how do you localize the in-car narratives, in the Indian consumers, considering there is a diverse music preferences and languages and driving habits?
Sure. I mean, India's music landscape is incredibly diverse. I mean, there's so much, content. We keep saying that there's a lot of Bollywood music that we experience, but there is also a huge appetite for indie songs and
Yeah,
indie music. So on a single drive, in a car, for example, friends going on a drive, a playlist might start from Bollywood, move to Punjab beats, to move into a Malayali, number. So Dolby Atmos ensures that you get these experiences irrespective of the language or genre, coming alive in a three-dimensional soundscape. And how do we do this? I mean, the work that we do with not just musicians, because they create music using Dolby Atmos as a tool, but there's a lot of work we do with streaming services. I'll give you an example of Ghana, the streaming service that delivers music in Dolby Atmos. I mean, on my last count, there were about 12 to 14 playlists in different genres of music. I mean, I fondly remember there was Dolby retro hits. There was Punjabi songs. There were even Bengali and Marathi classics in Dolby Atmos. So it depends on what the consumer preference is.
preferences.
As I me and my friends on a drive, as I said, can go from international tracks to different regional languages. The point is, can the streaming service give me that uncompromised great experience in different languages or different genres of preference? That's something that we try and do as we work with streaming services that delivers music in cars, or for that matter, even in your mobile phone. I
Okay,
mean, the point is, you get Dolby Atmos. You only said Dolby Atmos everywhere, so that's what we try and do. How do you get that best possible experience?
that's great. So, what strategies have you found most effective in educating both consumer and industry stakeholders, about the value of immersive and sound and picture technologies, tech basically? Yeah.
I think there is no substitute to getting people to experience it. I think we can't talk about the experience unless we get someone to experience. So our priority really is to focus on delivering a Dolby experience. Now, this is something that we actively do, through these beautiful partnerships that we've curated with our partners, right? I mean, we invite, consumers, patrons, partners to, say, for example, our latest experience, which is Dolby Cinema. Dolby Cinema is the best possible cinematic experience that is available in the world, and we try and get consumers, artists, our partners into that Dolby Cinema to get them to experience. We do also, I mean, recently we did a Friends of Dolby engagement at a music mix studio, where we invited our friends of Dolby for a Dolby Atmos music experience at a music studio. And then there was a car from Mahindra which was parked outside, so we had an artist kind of sharing the story from creation to delivery. So from how she created her music in the studio, and she played the same track that she played in the studio in the car, and it was for the friends of Dolby to experience what was created in the studio stays exactly the same when you experience it in the car. So again, I would say experiences. Now we do it with consumers, we do it with industry stakeholders, we do it with partners. Now talking about industry stakeholders, we do a lot of workshops. I mean, we do a lot of master classes on how the filmmakers, musicians, technicians, budding artists can use the visual and audio technologies to deliver a best possible experience. Then thirdly, I would say there's a lot of work that we do with OEMs at retail. I mean, the moment of truth, when you and me as consumers walk in, deciding what we should buy this Diwali, the first thing that we do is we go to a retail store. I mean, what is the new technology? What should I consider? And this is where the moment of truth is. So there's a lot of work we do with retail, with our OEMs, training their retail staff on how to give a Dolby experience. I mean, there are these very simple, audio video content that plays into those stores, which is Dolby Atmos, Vision, off, on. I mean, the in-shop demonstrator does not have to do anything. I mean, it's the clip that kind of does the selling for the customer. This is what you get on a normal TV. This is what you get if the TV is Dolby Vision and Atmos enabled. We do the
Right.
same thing on the e-commerce platform. I mentioned about Dolby brand e-stores on Amazon and Flipkart. Again, gives a experience of sorts. Even Dolby.com is a moment of truth where we get consumers to experience. So the answer to your question is experience, experience, experience. How do you deliver more experiences? Because once a consumer or the stakeholder kind of experiences the technology, it's never going back. That's what we try and do. This is an experience that is sitting in the head unit. So there's a lot of work that we do with tier ones and the OEM directly in enabling that experience. So there's a lot of work that goes in enabling individual SKUs of cars in Dolby Atmos. So there isn't an AI play there, because that's an experience that gets delivered through multiple stakeholders. I mean, yes, as a brand, as a company, we do a lot of work. I mean, there is two-thirds of our employees largely, work on, next gen, what's, experiences, and how do you, make experiences better. So there's a lot of, and two-thirds of these employees are typically scientists and, folks who do research work. So I'm sure there's a lot of work that we do, but there is nothing really that I can share at this point in time, around AI in terms of what we use. But there's a lot of work that we do for sure from a research and a development standpoint.
Great, great. So at the intersection of technology, lifestyle, and mobility. So, what's your approach, to fostering creativity within your marketing team to make, Dolby's in-car story a standout, basically?
Okay. So, I mean, I would say, the three components of our ecosystem, the creators, the services, and the OEMs, really, they are our advocates, and they really tell our story far better than we telling our story. We are an ingredient brand wanting to be consumer facing, but our access to the consumer, as I said, goes through our partners. So,
Yeah.
we draw a lot of inspiration, of course, from India's vibrant culture, including, certain passions that we all have, right from cricket to Bollywood, to the fact that we want to go on long drives in a car, since you're talking about car. So how do you weave all of this into stories that really brings the consumer closer to the artist? I think that's what we try and do, from a music standpoint. I gave you that example of what we did with these 5 regional artists at a dealership, right? I mean, this is again bringing the artist closer to the fan. So I think all of this, anything that stays true to what we do with our creator services and OEMs, I think that really inspires us as a marketing team, to deliver these stories. And they do a far better job, as in the creator services and OEMs, who are our advocates, and they do a better job of telling the Dolby story.
So, me, does your personal interest in news and gadgets, and in fact, movies, music, sports, influence anything around you, influence your professional decisions and campaigns at Dolby?
Don't I have a lot of interest? I mean, right from music to sports, I
Oh,
do. I mean, I come from a media background, and there's a lot of content that I consume, and I love. I mean, I love devices. So my personal passions do help me stay
right.
connected to what excites me, and the same TG from an engagement point of view, whether it is gadgets or films or sports. I think these interests really, when I experience them, the insights that I get is typically what I put to use in terms of shaping our campaigns,
Mm.
that showcases our impact on the whole entertainment story. So I think the more you connect with content, the more different types of content that you consume, the different devices that you kind of experience on, technology and content, I think go hand in hand, and they both kind of inspire me from different experiences that I typically experience. And then those are my inspirations,
Independent, yeah.
so
Definitely. So, what are the upcoming projects for Dolby? What we can expect?
Going back to what you said, Dolby everywhere. So with Dolby being everywhere, there is a lot that's happening. I think automotive definitely is keeping us, very very excited. I said last 3 quarters have been quite exhilarating. What started with just an announcement in December 2024 to where we are in September 25. Last 3 quarters, we saw multiple Indian, cars on Indian roads. I think that really is a very very proud Indian moment. Indian cars now we're not just taking cars to Indian roads, but hopefully there is a story from India to the outside. Plus, so I think automotive definitely excites me. What also excites me is Dolby Cinema. I mean, consumers, we Indian consumers take a lot of pride in seeking premium experiences. Gone are those times when we want, a compromised experience. Here, we want the best experience. We want the best format. We want the best content, and Dolby Cinema is one such example. So we recently opened up a Dolby Cinema screen in Pune, and there is a vision to bring another 5 screens in different parts of the country later this year. So that should keep us, busy and excited. Then there's a lot of work that we do on the content side. I mean, as I said, there's a lot of work that we do upstream. With content creators and services, and India is a land of 22 official languages. So different languages, different services, different content types. There is gaming, there is sports, there is TV shows, there is movies, there is music. So there's a lot that will keep us busy, and that's where we will be, concentrating our efforts on.
Yeah, so how do you see audio industry and audio business in next 2, 3 years? What's your perspective?
Now, this is called crystal ball gazing. I wish I had the answer, but I think it again
Not
stems from.
the
Sure. I think all of this stems from what the consumers are seeking, right? I mean, your first question I remember when we started the conversation was, what is it that the consumers are seeking? I think they are definitely prioritizing on premium experiences. I mean, we've seen consumer studies, we've done our consumer studies that point to, consumers prioritizing on premium audiovisual experiences. I think that is what whatever we do will mimic what the consumers want. I mean, consumers want premium experience, different lifestyle, we'll power those experiences.
Great. So thank you so much, Sameer, for your time. It was a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for such an insightful, thoughtful interview, and we wish you all the best for your future and for Dolby, and Dolby is everywhere, as you said. Thank you so
No,
much.
absolute delight to be here today. Thank you. These were great, questions. I think this wasn't an interview. This was more like a conversation between,
Yeah.
two friends who
Yeah.
appreciate great experiences. So thank you so much to Loudest and to Exchange for Media. I mean, it's one port of call that every morning, my day starts really with Loudest and Exchange for Media's daily newsletters. That's how my day starts. And then I get into, my other things. So I greatly value this absolutely editorially credible, brand that has multiple touch points. So best wishes to you as well. And we shall work towards bringing more and more experiences and making Dolby
Definitely,
present
definitely,
everywhere.
definitely. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.